Ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum. Every time we play that intro, outro, I have people say how much they love that. Thank you so much, Joel Felsenstein, my brother from across the pond in the UK, Rockstar X, different, not less. If you don't know Joel Felsenstein, you need to fix that now. Joel is absolutely fantastic. He's doing incredible work in the neurodiverse and autistic space. Thank you so much for being a sponsor of the show. Next, Hounds of Business Community. Thank you so much, Mike Asher-Brainer, Isabel Fortin, Christine Bell, and I will be there after this show. We will be there to support you, Christine Bell, in your stabby chats. I love that. I love listening to you. I can listen to you all day. So thank you so much, Hounds of Business Community. This is a community built on collaboration, which is, you know me, and if you follow anything I do, I am all about collaboration. Next, I want to thank the gifted bipolar writer, Nick. Thank you so much for all that you do. I appreciate you convincing me to be part of your anthology. It will be the second book that I have published. The first one is already out, is a bestseller. And I was part of that anthology about moving boxes and telling a little bit of my story. So I appreciate Dr. Leland, also a Hounds member, and Susanna Don, also a Hounds member. And thank you so much, Nick, for just allowing us to be part of this and sponsoring us and sponsoring the Feed for Good event. We will talk about that in a minute. But first, Circle of Friends Club, another group that I'm part of that is all about collaboration. They are fantastic. Once a month, you hear us do our People Community event where we to Jason Wilson, the founder, and the work that he's doing to really bring light to the oncology world. And in this month's segment, they're going to be talking about PTSD, since it's a National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. They are got a whole bunch of fantastic people lined up in their Freedom Fight Expo. And I'm really thrilled to be part of what they're doing to sponsor them and to be a part of the Circle of Friends Club. So I love that. Our Feed for Good event is September 27th. If you want to sponsor, we only have a few more sponsor places, and you can do that by the 16th. If you're interested in being a sponsor for our Feed for Good 4-hour old school style telethon, yes, we are nuts around here. We just go right for it. We have food. We've got chefs that are going to be doing their creations for you. We've got all kinds of people that are doing art demonstrations. We've got music. It's incredible. 4 hours of entertainment. We're going to be giving away books and doing a lot of fun things. So $20 for the tickets. But if you want to be a sponsor, you've got until the 16th. It's the last day to sponsor. Without any further ado, my guests have fallen asleep, and I've got to bring them back up to the stage now. John Schwind and Kathy Van Benthuysen in the house. I had to do it slow.
Yes, you got it. Got it right.
I felt like a student right then. I felt like a student. We had to practice. I'm gonna, if you couldn't tell, I had to practice her last name. But that's all right. I just want to tell you, thank you so much for being on the show today. Look, everybody, let's give it up. Give it up. That's right. Converlation in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Kathy and John in the house. John Schwind is the CEO. 40 years of being an entrepreneur in tech, and Kathy is the president. But 3 decades of being an educator. Good grief. I mean, the combination of these two is like the power punch, the yin and yang. So we are going to talk today about what they're doing at Converlation. And for all of you in the audience, if you don't know, I'm going to be posting this multiple times across the bottom, but Converlation.com. Make sure you go there, check out what they're doing. But let's jump on in. And ladies first, Kathy, tell us a little bit about Converlation. What is it? And why should we know more?
Okay, so well, first, thank you for having us, Jason. We greatly appreciate it. So let me back up and just tell you a quick little story. So every day of my 30-year teaching career, I would greet kids at the door and I would say, "Good morning, Jason. How are you doing today?" And I would expect two things: eye contact and a response. And in my first year teaching, every single kid on the first day of school was able to do that. Fast forward to my last year teaching in 2021, one student could look me in the eye and respond.
Oh.
And I thought, what happened in that time period? Because 9 and 10-year-olds really don't change that much. So what happened that 9 and 10-year-olds used to be able to look us in the eye and respond and communicate and have conversations? What happened? And there's a lot of things, but one of the things that I always point to is kids have gotten devices and we've almost normalized having their heads down and saying, "Oh, well, that's how kids are. They don't look up. They don't really communicate. They don't really respond when you talk to them." And I'm like, yeah, they did, because they did 30 years ago. And the only thing that was different was really technology. So I could not, in good conscience, not do something about it through my husband. And he was telling my husband what he was doing with helping parents and teens to kind of limit their technology. And my husband's like, "Oh my gosh, my wife would love that." So as John tells the story, I stopped by and I haven't left. But what we do at Converlation is we come alongside parents, and we're also in schools, but we'll talk about that later, come alongside parents to help them to raise resilient kids in this digital age. And that's actually why I actually retired 5 years early, so that I could come and make a bigger difference in kids' lives, because I'm still not even to retirement age. And I think about what is this next generation headed for if this is all they know, if this is like we call them digital natives because they've grown up with technology their whole lives, and they're not learning those things that we learned growing up. Just simple things like looking someone in the eye and having a conversation. So that's what I say we do is help and come alongside parents to help them raise kids that are going to be successful in life.
John, how'd she do?
I would say an A+, and she did so well.
Oh,
she gets a trophy.
Look at that. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So we have those trophies and we give them for great ideas or great activities. So she gets an A+ and a trophy here.
That's
Big
fantastic. All right. Well, everyone gets a trophy.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a trophy.
And see, that's actually
go ahead.
No, you can talk.
So that's part of the problem. We're rewarding participation as opposed to rewarding achievement and excellence. And we're kind of going in the wrong direction with society. So not everybody gets a trophy around here. I mean, very few trophies are given out, but so.
We feel like when parents would talk to me and they would say, "Well, how do I build my kids' self-confidence? How do I build their self-esteem?" And your self-esteem and confidence isn't built because someone said you did a good job. We're going to give you a trophy for breathing. Like, that does not make you feel good about yourself.
Right.
A child and even an adult feels good about themselves when they accomplish a task, when they achieve whatever it is that they had set out to do. And I would tell the kids all the time, like, if your best is a C in school, as long as you're doing your best, then that's worthy of praise. But if we think that, oh, well, as long as, you're just standing there or you're wearing blue pants, you should get a trophy for it. It's like, no, help them. This is how we raise a generation of kids who are confident, who do have high self-esteem when they are acknowledged for completing tasks and doing well in that, not just for, well, I showed up to field day, so I should get a ribbon for it.
So how does Converlation work with the parents to break that cycle? And then we can talk about, how you work with educators as well, but how do you work with the parents to break that cycle and start to create resilient kids?
So we've developed a series of tools and activities that a parent and a child go through together. The whole purpose behind Converlation is really to generate a conversation between child and parent, often stemming around technology, but there's other things that we do about character and life. And over a period of time, we establish framework, or help parents establish a framework for being able to have conversations with their kids outside of what we do here in Converlation. And that's one of the things that parents tell us all the time, the benefits of going through our program. And as a matter of fact, that's how we came up with our name. So we had done some focus groups with parents and teachers that had gone through Converlation. It wasn't called Converlation at the time. And they wouldn't talk about the actual activities that they were doing, but they talked about the outcomes, the conversations that our program started, and what happened to their relationship with their child, how it strengthened their relationship. And one day we were just playing with words and names and changing one letter in conversation. Converlation was born, and we said Converlation, and we looked at each other, and that's it. This was the wedding dress. You know when you see it. And so Converlation, and the URL was available, and we've been able to trademark it. And it's easy for people to remember. And it's about having conversations and strengthening relationships. I
love that. And I almost went back to every time I think of Converlation and having to say to Kathy all the time, when we set up our monthly talk, it's our conversation about Converlation. But I think of the band In Excess, and they had this song where everything rhymed. And my wife and I played this game, so Kathy knows about this, but they held up a sign, and it was abbreviate, learn not to hate, love your mate, and all that. So I can't help, every time I hear Converlation, I'm thinking of that song in my head now. I'm going converlate, abbreviate, learn not to hate, the whole thing going through. So maybe you should reach out, because In Excess is not around anymore, and they can create their own version for you, and then you just have a theme song. Or maybe
we do variations of, like, we're converlating. We can have a converlatte. So we can make it, it's not just a noun. We can make it a verb.
Yes. I love Michelle. Thank you for being here. Jody, thank you as well. I can't see any of the LinkedIn comments, which is, of course, like apropos. It happens all the time. But I love that the last couple of comments about our kids need to understand the difference and importance of not receiving a participation trophy, that they receive praise and guidance for the next time that it is more valuable. And then your comment now as well. I found it important to ensure I validate my daughter and her feelings, even when I don't necessarily agree. A reminder that it's her decision to make, and I'm simply here to support her. So I like the fact that you're approaching it in that fashion, and thank you for being here, Michelle. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit. So, educators kind of get a heavy-duty rap where we saw ever since the pandemic, and it started even before that, but it really hit during the pandemic, and then the burnout, and then everything beyond that. I've seen so many of the people that I know and I'm close to that are educators that have left the system for different reasons. But one of the things that I saw, and that I hope that in your conversations with educators, that you're taking some of the pressure off of, hey, it's not fully their responsibility just to make this happen. There has to be a balance between the parents, the kids, and the educators and the system itself in order to make that work and for us to build resilient kids. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there's a different way to approach this? And Kathy, we'll start with you.
There definitely needs. So when I was teaching, I would often say that I'm parenting the parents because they're 9 and 10-year-olds, and maybe not in the beginning, because when I first started, I was 22. But as I got older and the parents were younger, they would often ask me advice. And one of the things that, oh my gosh, I joke with John, man, if I had a nickel for every time I was asked, should I get my kid a cell phone? And I was always like, no, you shouldn't get your kid a cell phone. They're 9 and 10. When are they not with an adult? And what I find with Converlation and having it in schools is that we do as educators, we are helping to parent. We do come alongside. Like I used to say to parents all the time, like, I'm here to support you. What I do in the classroom, I'm going to support what you're doing at home. And I would appreciate if you would support what I'm doing in the classroom at home. Like, we're a team in this. And that's really with Converlation, it is done in schools. And then there's a component where it gets sent home, where a parent can do the exact same activity with a child at home, because we find that there's better outcomes when the parents are involved, that it's not just school saying, hey, this is a good idea. We want to educate you about your technology use. And we're going to talk about, that there's attention engineers who are on the other side of the screen trying to, keep you on as long as possible. But when those kids come home and hear the same message from the parents, and it's kind of cool because sometimes when parents, I know I'm sure you've seen this yourself, when you tell your kids something, they're like, teacher tells them it, it's like, oh, that's a really great idea. So we like that it's having it in schools, that it's something where it can be done in school, and then they can go and do the same activity at home. And we find that when it's a collaboration and not just one-sided, it does definitely make a bigger impact.
John, do you agree, or do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. The part of our job is to kind of educate kids about the darker side of the tech and get them to understand why we all want them to be on it a little bit less. The pitfalls, the scams that they can get involved with, but we have to educate the parents as well. It's surprising how parents just don't really know what's going on. They don't know what's going on with their kids, what kind of apps they're using, the challenges that kids face with these apps, the pressures that the kids are under. And by having a component where the parents are involved with their child with this, especially through the schools, then they're talking about it at home. And we find that that's really, really effective. The other part is that, this homeschool connection is then the parents start talking amongst themselves about this. And it's easier for, one parent knowing if the other parents are kind of on board when the kids come over to play. Yeah, all the cell phones can go in a basket, so now the kids have a chance to all be a little bit less tech connected and tech dependent and actually act like kids. So you get support from other parents, and that's part of what we're trying to achieve here, building really community of like-minded parents.
So talk more about how you work with the families and what are the programs that you do to help families out.
Okay. Right there.
Actually, we have an entire series of guides, and these are based on what's this is one guide, 8 activities. So these are done in schools. Can be done at home. This is one for a little bit older kids. I mean, our program really is geared for kids that are, 8 to 14 years old. And, the topics vary depending upon the age. And we have many, many, many more guides and programs. But it walks you through it. So you don't have to be knowledgeable about technology at all. You just have to be able to sit your butt down and kind of have a conversation. We have some videos that you go through. They're not ones that we did, but they're appropriate. But everything is geared towards generating that conversation, and the kids absolutely love it. They're the ones that start driving this. When can we do the next activity? And what ends up happening is the kids, when they have something to talk to their parents about, want to spend time with their parents. Okay. There's no judgment with this. There's no finger pointing with it. We've made this so that it's fun, and Kathy, 30 years in the classroom, we've counted the hours. I won't even tell you how many hours she spent in front of kids. She knows how to get kids to have fun and be engaged. So that's really one of the many, many things she brings to this program.
I think she does that well with adults, because I enjoy talking to her. I am certainly not in that demographic. So
absolutely. The other thing, so another outcome that came out of this. So we had families going through this, and invariably one of the adults would come to us and say, wow, it's great for my kid, but my spouse needs this. My significant other needs this. So we developed, and I don't even know if I have one here, a Converlation for couples. And so we developed this Converlation for couples, and it's a fun guide. It's not about technology. Like you're on your phone way more than I am. There's none of that. It's about our relationships and what brought us together. And so it's a series of activities that we have for adults. And that was just kind of a spin-off of this, because we love creating stuff like this.
Yeah. We said before we went live, because you were kind enough to send my wife and I a copy, and my wife is actually listening in on the show. So she saw it, and the first thing she did was, yeah, let's do that. And so we'll plan it out. We'll probably do it on one of our date nights. So every Friday, every Friday is date night. And this is how we've been together for 25 years this October. But every Friday is date night. It's just one of the reasons. There's a lot of reasons, and it's mainly because she's so wonderful. But
so one other thing about this was written for guys. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Because we don't want to discuss, we don't want to have that talk. And so when we hear that, we just go, oh, so this is really for both, but guys absolutely love this.
Yeah. So we like kind of joke, because we say that I passed the Derek test, because I would take it home and I'm like, okay, let's do one of these, these experiences. And I don't know, one of the first ones, and we hadn't really, John and I hadn't converlated on it. And we had the word like talk or discuss. And I remember he looked at me and he goes, Kath, no guy wants to hear the word talk or discuss. We think, oh, we're in trouble now. He goes, chat, converlate, something to make us feel like, hey, this is going to be good. So yeah, there's no talk or discuss in there either. So
I just tell my wife to just start talking. Don't even say that you need to chat. Just go ahead and just start talking, and I will listen.
Are you going to get in trouble since she's listening in?
Well, I will tell you, so far nothing has popped up in the chat to say, and nothing's in the private chat either. So I guess that's good. So, yeah. So let's move to what you're doing now with programs in schools. So what are you doing to create that? And Kathy, you go ahead and start and just say, hey, how does it work?
Okay. So when we first started it, so I taught 4th grade, and since, I was hand in the development of Converlation, we tested it out with 4th grade. And so they're like 9 years old. And we found like, okay, you know what? They're able to have these more rich conversations. We felt like if we kind of went, much lower, they're not going to be able to engage in that dialogue, in that like deep, meaningful dialogue. So that's why we say it's, 8, 9 years old. Some, depending on the maturity, they could go lower. So what we did was we were like, okay, so we can develop this for not every fourth grader is going to get. So we decided to start with 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. So we have content, we have a curriculum for each grade level, and the activities are all different. And a teacher or a facilitator, and really what we say is best is when a school has someone that is kind of the champion of Converlation, and they come in and we train them, and then they teach Converlation across all their grades in their school. And it really, the kids kind of, I know that they look forward to it, because we just dropped off materials to a school that this is their 3rd year doing it. And it's a resource officer and a counselor, right? A school counselor. And they come out and they're hugging us. Oh my gosh, we're so excited to do this again. And we're like, oh, good. We have all new content for the 6th grade. So we're seeing adults get excited, and they said that the kids love it. She said, one of the kids who's just going into 5th grade said, Mrs. So-and-so, we get to have you this year and do that Converlation program. So the kids like know about it. And it's neat when, it's kind of special. Like you get to start it in 5th grade, and then you get to do it in 6th and 7th and 8th grade. And the reason why is that we want it to be, it's not, John always says it's not a diet. It's not just, you do it for 1 year and you're done. It's better to keep up with it and keep learning the different what's the word? The challenges that, and they're constantly coming at them, that we're, constantly developing new things, because we feel like it's not slowing down. So the kids need to be educated. And like we said before, and the parents need to be educated as well.
Talk about the standards.
So New Jersey, we're actually aligned with the New Jersey Student Learning Standards under computer science and design thinking and comprehensive health and physical education. Now, if you're not in education, you might be like, I don't know what she's saying. But those in education will be like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And we're also aligned with the Castle framework. So, and when we developed this, we actually had someone help us to make sure that this was aligned, so that when schools, adopt it, they can say, it doesn't matter what state they're in, they can say, okay, they align with the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, which, my experience in the classroom in New Jersey. So I know that that's something that, educators can look at it and say, oh, okay, this isn't just something thrown together. It actually aligns with the standards.
Do you need that help? Because it sounds like everybody loves this. So, but I mean, I think it's great that you are that, but it sounds like even that question doesn't come up anyway, because they love the content.
It checks a box for the schools, and yeah, so that helps out. So it all hasn't been all roses. It's taken us quite a long time to be able to get to really, really good content, really engaging content. And we've hit some roadblocks. Early on, we started out trying to help teens, because that's where we're seeing, the worst of the problems. And we found, unfortunately, that they're too hard to get to. And so we ended up really moving back and going towards, the 9, 12, 13, 14, where you still can talk to them. They still listen. They still like their parents. I mean, after that point, when they get to be 13, 14 years old, somehow we get to be stupid at that point, but we're getting them in the earlier age and helping them to have real relationships with their kids. Because if they don't have a real relationship when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that they're definitely not going to be able to establish something when they're 15 or 16.
Yeah.
I know from my girls that during the certain period of time that I wanted to rent them out to other family members for just a brief period, they come back. But yeah, there was a time that we are just not cool. We are not cool any longer. But you know what? I think it's great that you're starting earlier because then you're developing habits.
Mhm.
You're developing the habits that you're hoping that even when, the hormones and everything else is going crazy in their lives as a teenager, that and pressures are even greater and the social pressure, more things are being thrown at them. Now they have a framework that's been built that hopefully can survive some of that, some of the funner time periods of them being in adolescence. So,
And I think that's something that parents have said to us, that this has established, and use the word framework. And that is what parents have said to us, is this has established a framework so that we can have some of those difficult conversations because we've already done it. So we actually have experience with it. We have already said, like, hey, we can talk about those hard things. And so as they get older, they'll be able to continue having those conversations. Because there's, the where I live, there's been some things that have happened at the local high school, and I don't need to get into it, but it's, not great. And I've seen some kids, high school kids, like my son and I are, playing tennis at a park, or, my husband and I go to the beach, and I'll see kids that I know from teaching, and they'll start telling me about, this experiences that they're having as a result of, some bad things going on. And kids will say to me, like, you're the first adult that's actually listened to us. And that's what kids want. They want to be able to have conversations. They want to know that they're being listened to. We don't have to, as the adults, we don't have to agree with everything that they do or think or say, but we don't want to cut off and just say, oh, well, I don't want to hear it, or you don't know what you're talking about. You're only, whatever age. Kids so desperately want someone to listen, and who better than to be their parents? And we can do that. It just it takes time, and you don't want to wait until, like John said, you can't wait until they're 14, because you're not going to be able to establish that. You want to start when they're younger, knowing that they can have those conversations with you.
Yeah, Michelle mentioned that earlier, and what she's talking about with her child, and you just said it. I absolutely agree that that's a big factor in how you establish, as you said, the framework for later on.
Mhm.
So that's great. You mentioned before we got on the air, and I'm sorry that I'm chuckling because it's really not funny, but you mentioned that schools now are thinking of passing some limitations on devices in schools. So talk about that and, your thoughts.
You want to start?
Sure.
John?
So if you pick up any newspaper or watch TV, it's in the news a lot, and sometimes it's local school districts. Maybe it's one school trying to do it, or a school district. I know there's a number of states that have even proposed to ban devices in schools. And while it's an interesting concept, very, very hard to kind of put the horse back in the barn. They've been able to have these devices in school for a long time. Now you're going to take it away. The big, big problem with it is they're not giving the kids the why. Why are we doing this? And we hear that so often. It's just going to be banned. And that's a real problem for the kids. If you don't give them the real reason, for it, and be able to get the kids to really understand the reason, other than just it's bad for you, then it's going to be ineffective, and the kids are going to try to get around it as much as possible. It's like early days of smoking that that was banned.
You're just going to create other problems.
Well, the problem is then they're going to sneak it into the bathroom and all kinds of things like this. So, it's a step. Kids don't need these devices. They need to be having conversations in classrooms. They need to be learning in classrooms. These devices are a distraction to them, but we got to teach the kids why we're doing this. And that's really what Converlation does. Gives them the why.
Yeah. And it puts a lot. So when someone comes in up here, where's my hand? Up here, and says, you're not allowed to have devices at school. Well, who's enforcing this? Well, now it's going to be on the teachers and the administration to enforce this. And that makes it hard because a part of it is the teachers say, okay, I get it. The kids are distracted. They're having lower test scores. We're seeing more cyberbullying. They're seeing all of that. However, how you're putting it on them to enforce it when really it needs to be a collaboration to all parties involved, the parents, the kids, and school. And when it's coming from not even from school, from above them, you must do this. Parents are struggling with it also. I mean, I've heard from so many parents say, well, I want my kid to have the device. I want to be able to, be in contact with them. What if there's an emergency? And I get that. I understand that. And again, it goes back to, then we need to have that conversation, not just say you can't have it, have a conversation about it. And, like John said, that's what we do with Converlation is we explain the why to everyone involved, not just, to the kids, because it's more than them. It's parents are involved in this also.
And we're actually involved with with a couple of states where they're rolling out broadband. This is a nationwide program where they're rolling broadband out to all of the underserved communities. And while oftentimes that's a really, really good thing for medical access and telehealth and bringing people up, there are some downsides to it too. So we're talking to these states now about putting Converlation out to give the kids the understanding of what potentially happens with this technology and some of the things they want to steer clear of or be conscious of. And that's what we help with.
I love that you're doing that, and that's a great add-on to those programs, because I've heard of that program, especially there are places in New York, especially around where I am, that have different programs to help people with that type of thing. So having Converlation be part of that process to where they can build and understand how to use technology in a respectful way, and then help the parents with having conversations and help the educators with helping the parents, and creating that whole cycle that you're doing would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all about using technology as a tool. I have 40 years in technology myself. The challenge comes when it's rolled out and it's used just as endless entertainment, and that's the trap the kids get pulled into.
And when people say, "Oh, well, it's not going to happen to us," well, listen, technology addiction, kind of like any addiction, is not a respecter of persons. If you give it to kids, as I can't even tell you the number in a restaurant, in a high chair, and they're on someone's device so that they can be quiet so the parents can eat dinner. And you start teaching little kids at 2, 3, 4, this is how you are going to be entertained. I don't want, I want to be able to eat my dinner in peace. So I'm going to give you this device. But the thing is it's made to be addictive. And it really is also very isolating when we use them. And we don't want these 2, 3, 4-year-olds growing up thinking this is normal, because they grow into the 5, 6, 7 and the 10, 11, 12. You get the idea that it doesn't help them. So, you know what, like kids, we're supposed to play. Like, what are we made for? We're made for relationships. That's how we thrive in life, is in relationships and connections with other people.
I love it. I love it. You guys are doing a great job. And I love the way you brought it all around to tell the story. So, anything else you want to share before we wrap up? We're about at that time period, but I want to give you guys anything else that you want to share with the audience about Converlation.
So send us a message. You can send it to Kathy at Converlation or John at Converlation. Send us an email, and we will send you something else we developed. And it's 5 things that your child should be able to do by the age of 14. And it's a guide, and it's really, really kind of cool. And what it will do is will give your kid confidence, some independence, and as a parent, it'll take things off of your plate. And when your kid's able to do these things, other people look and go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that they actually do that." So that's all we're going to tell you right now. But it's really, really, really cool, and it's free. And we'll send it to you free. So Kathy at Converlation or John at Converlation. Kathy with a K.
Yeah.
Hey, VP. Well, thank you so much, John Schwind, Kathy Benthuysen.
Woo! Yes.
Wow, I didn't even have my notes in front of me, so I panicked for a second.
No, that's just how good you are.
Really slow. At some point, I'm actually going to have it where I just say it.
It's going to flow off your tongue.
Damn
it, Tyson.
Flow off my tongue.
Hopefully,
Derek is not watching this, so he's going to be going, "Wow, that guy." Whatever.
It's going to be 3 a.m. You're going to wake up and then you're going to be cursing. Oh, okay. I'm keep thinking about this.
Joe's going to
be like, what?
Oh my goodness. We have been conversating with Converlation. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. People Community Event is about telling the stories of those that are breaking down barriers, pushing away stigmas, and doing good in the world. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
Jason.